counting begins. Also, as the trends come in, and we have Chaksu Roy with us in the studio, expert on legislative affairs from PRS Legislate. Thanks very much, Mr. Roy, for being with us. Let me first start with you, Mr. Roy. You can put this into context, then we'll go to our correspondence. We've had a record voter turnout this time around. What does that imply in your vast experience?
I think rather than comment politically on what a record voter turnout implies, I think to me, as somebody who watches legislatures very closely, a record voter turnout is an absolutely fantastic news for democracy, for the kind of interest that people are taking in the formation of the Legislative Assembly, in the interest that they are taking in choosing their elected representatives. We have seen in the past wherein for a variety of reasons, sometimes people were scared. So for example, news reports have pointed out that there was good polling even in areas which were earlier impacted by left-wing extremism.
Right.
So the fact that there's been a record voter turnout, I think it's a great thing. I think it will represent the hopes and aspirations of people, and people will be able to get a say in who gets to govern the state for the next 5 years. I think the other part is that Bihar is a wonderful mix of a state where, and as Gautam was pointing out earlier in his capsule, that Bihar is complex and Bihar's voters are acutely politically aware. So what Bihar decides usually has some kind of a bearing on how the rest of the country thinks about politics. So that's usually a good sign for any state that's politically aware. It's a big legislative assembly, 243 seats, one of the bigger ones in the country. In fact, it was even bigger at about 349. But then when Bihar and Jharkhand became two separate states, Jharkhand got 80 seats and Bihar got 243. So today, when our viewers are watching this telecast for the rest of the morning, one number that they need to be focusing on is that the majority mark for this assembly is going to be 122. So any political party, either on its own or as part of an alliance, would be looking to get 122 seats to form the government. I think and if you look at the numbers, it seems that the current alliance, which is the National Democratic Alliance, made up of Chief Minister Nitish Kumar's party, the BJP and a couple of others, they have repeated a number of their candidates. So I think 50% of the candidates that they had in the last Legislative Assembly, or candidates that they had fielded who had lost, they're repeating that. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch out for. The RJD is one party which is contesting, I think, 140 plus seats on its own. No other party is contesting that many seats. So that's another interesting thing to watch out for. And finally, at the beginning of your program, you had mentioned as to the record turnout for women voters. And I think that is another interesting and crucial thing that all of us would be looking out for, as to what does that mean for the results in Bihar.
Right, so if you're just joining us, the news coming in from Bihar is the counting of votes has begun. Let's go across to our colleagues on the ground covering the elections and counting day for us. To you first, Deepika, tell us more.
Yes, the counting has started, and first of all, till 8:30, the counting of postal ballots will be taking place, which is currently underway. And after that, all the counting will begin for the EVMs, which is the electronic machines. So when we talk about the crucial results, the concrete results, we can expect something around 9:30 onwards only, because these are just the postal ballots which are being counted till 8:30, and after that, the EVMs will be counted. As far as the security arrangements are concerned, here security have been beefed up, multi-layer security have been put in place across all the counting centers here, and especially when we are in Patna. And after having all the statements here, because there are continuous statements which are coming in from all the leaders, from all the party leaders. Many of the party officials are outside the counting centers as well, and the poster war, as the reports also show, that this poster war is also going on. So the rivalry is getting on a very aggressive mode here, because we are just in the initial hours of the counting process. Very soon we will start having the results as well, Ramesh.
Indeed, let's ask Gautam, from where you are, Gautam. Obviously, it's a big day, and as Mr. Roy was saying here in the studio, that Bihar is a very politically aware state, so everyone must be, all their eyes are focused on this election result, waiting for the trends and probably debating it amongst themselves as it comes about, as we are trying to do in the studio as well. Tell us, how the average man on the street is looking at today.
Well, most of them will be glued to the television screens where you are, Mark, as well as Ramesh, and other news channels as well, because they will be looking out for the trends. And I can see on our screen as well, initial trends have started coming in. And as Deepika mentioned, these are from the postal ballots, and these can change very well later on in the day as well. One particular election in Bihar, an assembly election of 2015, is quite legendary that way, when the initial trends showed that a certain a coalition or a party was being favored. It was emerging as a single largest as well at one stage. It went to the extent that sweets and were distributed in the party office, and firecrackers were also burst. But then later on in the day, towards noon perhaps, if I remember correctly, because I was there in Patna again that year, the results completely flipped. And it was embarrassing for one side, and the other side was completely elated. So I think the initial trends will be seen with a lot of measure and perhaps even skepticism right now. And people will wait for the results and the trends to concretize further towards a little later, maybe perhaps towards noon, and then perhaps bring out the sweets and the firecrackers.
Indeed, Mr. Roy, coming to you now, since you referred to the voter turnout in your earlier intervention, do you think the Election Commission should be commended, complimented for a successful election, in that the SIR, the Special Intensive Revision of Voters List, does not seem to have played on the voters' mind, at least in the face of it?
Ramesh, I think elections in India, no matter whether you take national elections or state elections, are a mammoth exercise.
Indeed.
When you were rattling off statistics as to what is the kind of personnel that is required to be deployed to conduct elections in one state, I think the fact that we are able to do that with nobody complaining about the fact that their franchise, they were not able to exercise that franchise, it's a commendable feat. Right. Many other democracies deal with much smaller numbers, right? The numbers that we deal with and the time frame it has to be done in is, I think, of no small measure. And Election Commission has always been at the forefront of ensuring that voters are able to exercise their franchise. There are obviously, in any democracy, I think there are always questions and cross questions about functioning. But as long as the outcome of the elections is free and fair and everybody was able to cast their votes and the sanctity of that vote was protected, I think that goes a long way to say as to the working of the electoral machinery in our state. Now, just one, if I may add, Deepika was mentioning about the electronic voting machines. Now, when the electronic voting machines was first designed, one of the reasons for making those electronic voting machines was because in Bihar and many other states, there were instances of booth capturing and ballot stuffing in the ballot boxes. And to ensure that those kind of electoral malpractices did not happen and did not taint our electoral process, it was that the electronic voting machines were brought in. And when they were finally implemented, the electronic voting machines, one of the measures that was implemented was to make sure that the voting button cannot be pressed continuously. There was a time delay that was put in so that the manual ballot stuffing that could be done in the ballot box, the same could not be done in the electronic voting machine. So Bihar possibly is one of the reasons as to why we have electronic voting machines.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's go across to Abhishek. We've established contact with Abhishek. Abhishek, over to you.
All right, thanks Mark and Ramesh. So counting has started.